We'll do a special edition of Multifamily Strategy Live. No, we're not just going live because I missed my live this week on Wednesday. We have a very special episode here. I got Dion. I have Michael Zuber. As a bonus, you guys also have me, but we're all here for these two. We got our speakers for Northwest Action Summit Live, nwactionsummit.com. This event's coming up May 3rd and 4th. Michael Zuber is keynoting. Absolute privilege to have him here. Dion has been one of my longtime local Seattle investor friends. All three of us have different strategies, though I would say of all of my friends, you two have the most similar strategies. Michael, you've obviously scaled a larger business that we'll go into here, but both of you, perfectly to the name, buy one rental at a time. I've done this for a sustained period of time. So we're going to talk about your strategy, talk a little bit about the upcoming event, and we have a bonus. If you comment on this video, we're going to be giving away one VIP ticket, I believe valued at $800 for the two-day event, which is actually quite the giveaway. We'll be choosing one person in the comments to do that, and the reveal will be on Monday. So I am recording this call. We are writing down all these names, and I will throw you guys all into a random generator that my assistant will do. And watch for the winner on my Instagram tomorrow. So that's at Christian Osgood. We'll announce that a couple times throughout, I am sure. Lastly, All Nighter Hider has joined the chat, so we can officially start. Michael, good to have you on here again. I don't know that we've ever gone live together. This is kind of fun.
No, I'm technology challenged, so I needed Dion to coach me, for about a half hour to make sure it all worked. So I don't go live via StreamYard very often. So we owe Dion a huge debt of gratitude for walking me through it.
There we go. Dion turned me on to lives. I believe he actually set me up for my first live Zoom.
Yeah, you came over to my Murder Central house in Ruston, Washington, where nobody should live. And we set you up for the first time. I love that on StreamYard here, you've got that intro because that kind of tells my brain to switch into live mode so I don't talk about all the stuff we were talking about before that would get us sued. Now we can switch into what publicly.
There we go. See, that's very important. By the way, I didn't get a confirmation from this morning, but we have one more speaker in the house.
Woo! Another now Mike, we can start.
Millennial Mike. First name Millennial, last name Mike. Good to see you, man.
Yo.
All right, we got a full screen. I like this. I like this format much better. 4 people, all speaking at the Northwest Action Summit, all different strategies. This is going to be awesome. Anyone can ask questions for any of us, so we will we'll get through the intros here pretty quickly. And if anyone has questions on real estate investing, creative finance, conventional finance, this is a group of people who have bought a significant amount of real estate, in-state, out-of-state, small, large. We got it all. Michael Zuber, you're going to be our keynote speaker for this event. Absolutely privileged to have you. Tell everyone a little bit about your backstory, what your portfolio looks like today, and how you got there.
Yeah, so again, I'm the one rental at a time guy. My story started in 2002. Bought Norris Drive, 1818 Norris Drive East, 93703, 107 grand, 1100. Thought I solved it. Ultimately, having that first tenant destroy the property was a huge wake-up call. So that wasn't fun. Again, real estate investing tests you. I've often said that the first 5 years suck, but it's worth it, right? When you do something and you do it right, you got for cash flow, you don't gamble, you leverage smart, you 1031, cash out refi, seller financing, private money. There's just so many ways to keep moving the ball forward. You don't let the market dictate it. You just get better. I know a lot of people that are watching this in 2024 think that the market's over. Oh my God, rates are 7. They're 8 for investors. Folks, you don't get it. You don't get it. Frankly, as an investor, as harsh as it sounds, we want higher rates. We want a slower market. I mean, ask yourself one simple question. Do you want more or less competition? If you want more, you want lower rates. If you want less, you want higher rates. And I've been investing through all markets and all cycles, booms, busts. And I can tell you that seller financing, private money are tools that always work, but they are better used in slow markets. I think we're heading into a slow market. I want to have all my tools at my disposal. And I'm excited. The last thing I'll say is actually something that came to me while on stage at WealthCon in Vegas yesterday. I said this on my live stream. I just got to own this. I've often been proud of, and all four of you heard me say this, that I can do the work like my hands. I thought it was a privilege and a superpower to outwork. I can do it longer than you, and ultimately I will win. But damn it, that is so stupid. You should be getting with smart people that have done the work, network, get new friends. I tried to do everything by myself. If you read my book, you know that I screwed up my first year. I screwed up the first 5 years. If you watch my YouTube channel, it may be impressive today, but the first year was 1,000 videos and nothing. So one of the things that I realized while on stage, it'll be interesting when I see the video if I can see the moment that it's, and I'm a complete ball. And my superpower is also my kryptonite, and that's just embarrassing to say. Come to the summit, give everything away, network, ask questions, get around other amazing people that are doing what you want to do. The key to this journey is find people that are above you and below you, so that we can all improve together. So I'm lucky enough to have you three in my corner, and I can't wait to see you guys.
And Zuber said something very important there. High interest rates, less competition. That is my favorite piece. When I started investing, we happened to be at the the last few months of 3% interest. That's when I got my first duplex. I started rolling. I was like, wow, this is it's easy to cash flow. That's nice. What I love about the higher rates personally is it's 7%. What are we at? Like 7.5-ish right now. If I have a deal that I purchased today and it cash flows on long-term fixed rate debt, and we hold this for a long period of time, it's already a good purchase. Like a good deal today is great. And if there's a point where rates get lower in the next 5-10 years, I have long-term debt, and we can pull all this cash flowing stuff at 7.5% debt. We can pull it all the way down to 5% debt. In addition, like you mentioned, if we do creative financing, we can also just name our own terms. So if someone wants, a prior year's price, we may be able to work on that. Though, side note, if you overpay, you can't just go and adjust into conventional terms. So you can choose an interest rate that makes your deal work. But if you only went on terms, you better keep those terms for a long time, and that deal better be right. Otherwise, your ability to adjust is nilch, as I learned with my one and only resort purchase.
Mm-hmm.
You decide you don't want a resort, but you overpaid for it, you're fairly stuck because your 4% interest debt makes it work. Dion, tell us a little bit about your method, where you're at today. You've been on live before with me, but for those who haven't seen you on this blend of channels, which is basically no one, talk a little bit about your origin story, what you're going to be talking about at the event.
So I found out that I need to start with the end story instead of the origin story, because when I focus on the origin story, a lot of people think this is depressing. So I start with, you can reach financial freedom with a small portfolio. You can make work completely optional in less than 10 years. So I retired in 2022 after 12 years of investing because I love my job. I worked 4 more years than I needed to. And so I go, look, there's a happy ending. Now let's focus on all of the reasons why people look at their life and think they have an excuse not to start. They say things like, I'm too old. I made it to 40 without ever having $1,000 in the bank. They say things like, well, I have kids. Well, I had 3 kids and no spouse. Always been good about keeping custody of kids, never been able to keep a woman around. So weird. Can't imagine why, except for this long list of reasons. But I found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed until the divorce. I got laid off from law enforcement because of the 2008 housing crash, and I started teaching at a CDL school making $17 an hour. So I think I had every base covered except a major health concern. So yes, there could be some things out there that make it harder to start than the position I was in, but I have most of the excuses covered that were the actual reasons to start, not excuses not to start. An example is house hack. How many times have we heard people say, I can't house hack, I have kids? Like, they were the reason I house hacked. I wanted to not create generational wealth. I think that's a mistake a lot of people focus on. What I wanted to do was the most important thing we can do for our kids, and that is to take care of our own personal finances so we don't become a financial burden to our kids when we're too old to work, because becoming too old to work happens to all of us eventually. And so that's what I focused on. It did take a decade. I found it after 8 years of investing, but in 2018, when I found one rental at a time, and I thought, this is the playbook of how I did this. This was, all my things were from the MLS. All my things were conventional lending. It was one rental at a time, one to the next. Nothing sexy, nothing fancy. Zuber talks about once he had that figured out, then he went into the creative things. With the 2008 housing crash, he realized the housing affordability was so skewed. It was the best time to offload and buy multifamily. Right, he's made all these serious plays, but all of that happened after developing the skill set comes from the really basic, really boring things of studying a market, learning average, saving a down payment, working on your credit score, talking to a lender to find out what your options are, picking a market, picking an asset class, and then actually hunting for deals and closing on them, one every couple of years. And it starts so slow that a lot of people right now think there's no way I can do it in today's market. And they'll think it's the crash bros reason, it's the recession reason. And they'll say things like, well, it was so easy to start when you started, because, Zuber started during the dot-com crash. It was so easy then. And then he went through the housing crash. I started in 2010 and 11 when they said, no one can borrow money. Lenders disappeared. You can only have 4 conventional loans in your name. And the lending criteria was through the roof. And then 2013, when home prices started going above where they were in 2008, everybody said, nobody can buy because this is unaffordable. It's unsustainable. The prices are so high, it's going to cause another crash. In 2015, there was the first, we've heard of it again, the silver tsunami. This was when the baby boomers were going to start retiring. Now they're supposed to be doing it again for some reason. And that was going to flood the market and cause a housing crash. In 2018, just like now, interest rates were above 6%. And everybody was screaming that nobody can buy a rental when rates are this high. It's impossible. In 2020, we had a pandemic, an eviction moratorium, a rent freeze, the start of forbearance, and all the reasons why you shouldn't buy a rental. And in each one of these years, I purchased a duplex or a fourplex or a triplex. And then in 2021, people were screaming, forbearance is ending. Everyone's going to go through foreclosure. No one can buy a rental. 2022, interest rates triple. 2023, it's the start of the recession. Every single year since I've been born, there's been a reason nobody should start investing in real estate. And that's why I've taken on the personal job of convincing people it's possible.
Dude, I had a lender who convinced me not to buy in, I was looking in Boise, Idaho area in 2010. And he's like, dude, the market's already starting to recover. You do not want to buy right now. So I was like, okay, fine. I won't do that. It was like when I turned 19, I was talked out of investing by a lender. For those who know my story, I then partnered with a 19-year-old many years later. So go figure. You want to buy real estate or be an investor, there's only one way to do it, which is to buy real estate. It is not watching a live stream. It's not watching YouTube. It's not reading a book, though all of those things are great and all of those things will help you. Nothing replaces buying a property. What you will actually learn when you buy that first deal will set you up for the future. General law, within 5 years of buying your first deal, a lot of people either find financial freedom or are significantly on their way. But that countdown does not start until you buy a deal. Mike, you buy out of state, which is a little bit different than most of us. I mean, I buy a little bit in Texas, but I'm very new to the out-of-state investing. We have the king of Gary here. Crime rate is 0. High cost of living. Talk to us about your investing strategy and what has you investing in what was it at one point? I don't know if it still is known as like the murder capital of the U.S.
The 1993 murder capital of the country. It was a good year for us. We have the banner hanging in our stadium. But yeah, so you may ask yourself, if we go with what Dion said, right? He said, why don't we talk about the end instead of the beginning? Because the beginning is depressing and we all have different beginnings. if I talk about the end, where I'm at right now is not the end. But if I look at where I'm at right now, 5.5 years into investing in real estate, I'm at $7,000 a month in straight profit. Now, $7,000 a month may not seem life-changing to you. It's $84,000 a year. It's well on my way to replacing a six-figure income with real estate, which is what I set out to do when I started my channel 6 years ago, and when I got my first rental property 5.5 years ago. I wanted to see if I could
Mike, I want to stop you for a sec. I want to hear from the audience. How many people in the audience, $7,000 is life-changing? He's playing it off like it's nothing. I know lots and lots of people that if they had $7,000, they would be done.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to hear from the audience. Who'd be done with $7,000? Let us know in the comments below. Sorry, Mike.
No, you're good. You're good. And the reason I have to play it down is because I'm sitting amongst people who are doing significantly better than $7,000 a month. But the reason that I bring it up is because, like Zuber just said, if you do imagine what your life would be like if you had just an extra $7,000, would you be willing to put in the work to invest for just 5.5 years of making sacrifices and pushing to get yourself to a point where you had $84,000 extra a year on top of what you're already making? That might be life-changing for you. That might be enough for you to just straight up retire and be done. For me, it's not quite yet. I'm getting close. But yeah, as Christian said, I invest at a distance. I looked around my local market of the Seattle, Washington area, and I said, you know what? Other than the house hack I currently live in, it's really expensive here. I grew up in the Midwest, and a lot of people look at prices for properties in the Midwest and say, wow, this seems so much more affordable. The numbers make so much more sense. But how do I get started? I don't want to screw it up. I don't know anybody there. I don't know where to begin. And so what I talk about on my channel, and usually what I talk about when I speak to people like this event at the Northwest Action Summit, is how to get started investing at a distance. And that's what I cover.
I love it. Now, one thing that almost all of us, I don't believe Dion's done seller financing, but a lot of us have used different creative finance strategies throughout our investing careers. And I know that's going to be a huge focus of this event, as I am one of the hosts of the event. That kind of automatically makes it a little bit creative finance, because I started with literally no money. For the few who don't know my backstory, built a 200-unit portfolio with partners. I want to point out everyone on this call has more equity in their actual portfolio than I do. Unit count does not matter. However, built a couple 100-unit portfolio using creative finance over the last 4 years, starting with the duplex, second duplex, 38plex. And what I found is that units or buildings with more units make more money. So if you know how to do your math, you can spot a good deal. Generally speaking, bigger is better. Also, if you're brand new, don't start with a 100-unit building. Just because bigger is better does not mean that you want your mistakes and your stupid tax multiplied by 100x. It is okay to start small. Start where you're comfortable. And I say go a little bigger than that. If you're comfortable with a duplex, buy a fourplex. If you think you can take on a fourplex, try pushing for a 10-unit building. It's not that much different than running a 4-unit building. Different type of financing. I think a little bit easier to control your value add because of the income approach. But pushing to larger helped me scale quicker. Creative finance we do a lot of. One thing I've heard Michael Zuber talk about, which I actually have not done myself, it was a 50-40-10 strategy that you were talking about with seller financing. We're going to open up for questions, but this is something that I have never done. I am very curious to hear more about that. Michael, what is a 50-40-10 strategy when we're looking at creative finance?
Yeah. So one of the things about seller financing is most people think it's always the first, right? I'm going to get the seller carry first, which I've done, and it is amazing. But when we are heading into a slower market, you need to realize you need more tools. And the 50-40-10 is an amazing Swiss Army knife that if you are, let me think about this. So like getting a seller to take a first is like high school. The 50-40-10 is a PhD. Because it allows you to do so many powerful things. First and foremost, it allows you to get into a deal with 10% down. If you're an investor today, that should sound crazy to you because investor loans today at best case are 25% down. Many of them are 30% down. So again, we're talking about getting in with high leverage. Now, a lot of you hear high leverage and go, you're crazy. There's nothing there. Well, step number 2 is you can structure a blended below market interest rate. Okay, what the hell does that mean? Well, you're going to get a 50% loan from somebody who does a 90% CLTV Velocity Mortgage, Stephen Dow on my channel every week. His company does that. So the 50% is going to be expensive. Let's just call it 10%. But here's the magic. The other 40 is going to come from the seller in second position. And I have done this repeatedly. I can get sellers to take 40% at 1%. Now, if you take 50% of your mortgage at 10 and 40% of your mortgage at 1, your blended interest rates in the high 5s or low 6s. That, if you haven't done the math, is below market interest rate for commercial loans. And, oh, by the way, because Velocity Mortgage does this, you can get 30-year fixed rate debt if you want it. It's not 5-year ARMs. It's none of this, oh my God, hope and pray nonsense. So again, the 50-40-10 is a crazy Swiss Army knife. It is going to be extremely powerful. Now, the last thing you should be asking yourself is, all right, Jokester, you said 1%. Why would somebody do that? Well, lots of reasons. If you're selling today and you're a tired landlord and your property is not perfect, you're going to get disrespectful cash offers from guys like the four of us. You might take it if you're tired and frustrated enough. But let's say you're going to try to buy a fourplex. And a year ago, that fourplex would have sold all day long for $500,000, right? Because there was no supply and demand was crazy. Today, because it's crazy and it's low, you might get, I don't know, 4.25. But it's tired. You're not going to get conventional financing. So you're going to get guys like the four of us offer 310, 315. Mm-hmm. However, what if I offered 450? But you had to take 40% of your money back in a 1% note for 30 years, right? So again, then you need to talk about the benefits of seller financing, delayed taxes, right? You can spread your taxes, you maintain income, you get rid of the headache. So the 50-40-10 is the PhD of seller financing. I will go over it in more detail at the event. I will give Stephen Dow's email. We have a deep dive video on it. There's just so much power in it. So again, the beauty of seller financing is it doesn't have to be a first. It can be a second. And when you're really good at this game, that's the secret unlock. My very first seller financing, little be known, was a seller second. They took 10% back on the third property I bought. It was the only way we get that deal done. So I've been doing seconds with sellers for 20 plus years.
Wow. And that's something that I get on my channel all the time. Why would a seller go into second position? And people really struggle with, so you're putting 10% down. You don't have a ton of skin in the game. You have some, but you don't have a ton of skin in the game. How do you get a seller to do this? How do you actually go through that negotiation? There's going to be awesome things to talk about at the event. Mm-hmm. And if you guys want to converse with us more there, VIP tickets, there's a bunch of other stuff in there where you can interact even more with the speakers at the event. Speaking of, going to answer some of the questions in here. Martin Properties asks, how do we get a chance to win? So we're giving away a VIP ticket today. For those who are just joining now, congratulations. This is like $800 of value that you could win. One winner will be randomly selected. I will announce that tomorrow, both live on YouTube and on my Instagram at Christian Osgood. So I'm recording this. All you have to do to qualify is post a comment here, because I am tracking everyone who posts a comment. That is the only way that I get your name. It's not because I don't love everyone else who's watching. It's that I have no idea who you are unless you comment. So post the comment in here. If you want to be really kind, also like this because I believe that makes more people see this. Or maybe don't, because that's more competition for you. Depends on how you want to game this. But if you appreciate us, drop a like in here. I'll be answering some questions from the chat, by the way, as we go. However, since everyone's going to be posting a comment, I'm going to be doing more digging. So I'm going to ask Millennial Mike, our other Michael. Arguably the first Michael on this channel. Who's Michael 1, who's Michael 2? Hard to say. But Millennial Michael, how have you used creative finance in your portfolio? Especially like the last few deals. Give us a good example of how you used it in your strategy.
You're muted.
Muted.
What people need to remember is that creative financing is an umbrella term.
Yes, it is.
That covers pretty much anything that's not traditional financing. And so there's so many different things you could do, including just 50-40-10. You could do private money. You could do hard money. You could do a seller financed loan. You could do a subject to deal. There's a whole bunch of different things. And I have done a lot of different strategies when it comes to creative financing. And I say over and over and over again that seller financing is the holy grail of real estate investing. And also, if you're not doing everything you can do to learn about creative financing, then you're missing the mark. You're doing yourself a disservice. The last several deals that I have done have been off-market and creatively financed. One of the deals that comes to mind immediately, I did a $3,000 down with 0% interest rate until it was paid off. So how did I find this deal? Wholesaler. How did I negotiate the seller financing? Well, first thing I did was teach the wholesaler about what seller financing was. So he had an extra tool on his tool belt to offer to these people he was previously just offering 50 cents on the dollar cash only. Well, when they come back and say, we don't want to sell 50 cents on the dollar for cash only, he could say, what about selling 75 cents on the dollar or 80 cents on the dollar with a down payment and then monthly payments? And they did say yes to that. And really, I know Mike and I, Zuber, have talked about this many times. Creative finance and seller financing oftentimes is a numbers game. You're going to throw it out there to a lot of people and get told no. So you need to throw it out there to as many people as you can. So why not have more people on your team, like wholesalers and real estate agents, already preemptively throwing it out there on your behalf? And so I was able to get a $3,000 down, 0% interest rate deal on a duplex. I'll mention one other way that I've used it, and that's private money. I've created what I call the slow burr method. It's the burr strategy, but I tried to come up with ways to fix the problems with the burr strategy, because when you do the burr strategy, you buy, you remodel it, you rent it out, and you refinance. But the last part can be a little tricky because, as I learned in 2022, in March, when I bought 2 properties at 3% interest rates and then had to refinance 6 months later when interest rates were at 7%, a lot of the cash flow I had anticipated got wiped out because interest rates had more than doubled. And so I said to myself, well, I have to get all my money back so that I can pay off the short-term money that I borrowed from a home equity line of credit in order to do this remodel project. And now I'm kind of forced to refinance as quickly as possible. And I don't like this because interest rates suck. Or maybe what if the appraisal didn't come back at what you want? The downside of the burr strategy is that you're kind of forced to refinance at the wrong time sometimes. So I was like, well, what if I could delay this timeline? What if instead of doing a cash out refi with a lender, instead I went to a private money lender, just a regular person from my real estate meetup, and said, what if you give me a loan on this property that I own outright that I just remodeled? And what if the loan that you give me, I pay you 10% on that loan, which is a lot, but I'm going to pay interest only, no principal. So that interest only is great for them because they're making 10%. And it's actually good for me because I'm making a payment of less than principal and interest. So I can cash flow. And then what I did is I put that loan term between me and that private money lender on a 5-year term. I got to make payments to them for 5 years, but there's no prepayment penalty. So if rates come down, I can cash out. And let's say we're in the middle of a crazy recession when that 5 years comes up. I put in there a clause that I could extend for up to an additional 3 years. I just have to keep paying them. So I give myself this up to 8-year window where I can now complete the burr strategy at the most advantageous time for myself by using private money and not boxing myself into a 6-month time frame. Those are just 2 ways recently that I've done creative finance.
Dude, I love that. And I'm going to jump to a second question here, or I guess third. But dude, my favorite thing about creative finance is creative. It's everything that doesn't fit into the box. And so when you are putting together your deal, you're just basically asking the question, if it doesn't work conventionally or you don't want it to, if conventional is not the terms that you want, what makes your deal work for you and what works for the seller? If you can map out what hits their objectives and you write an offer that matches that, they're pretty much always going to say yes. So come up with something that you know ticks all their boxes, which is why you need some sort of relationship with either the owner or if it's listed, the broker. Understand the deal. And out of that, just write terms that get you into long-term cash flowing debt. You've bought an income stream and you get to keep that income stream for a long period of time. So I love it. Jake Martin has a question that I like. What's your number to transition to a different life? Is it what you're making today? 1.5 times that? 3 times? What does it look like to go to a different life? I like this in conjunction with Mike's $7,000 a month cash flow question. I think, at least for me, $7,000 is more than I currently spend on my cost of living. I live on 6.5, so that would just cover me if I wanted no lifestyle upgrades. That being said, buying a bigger house, so it will not sustain me forever. Taxes are much higher in Texas, as is my mortgage interest rate. For all of you, through your careers versus building this portfolio, where do you think the actual quality of life changes in proportion to the income you're making in a 9-to-5? Dion, I want to start with you.
So there's been several studies done on the amount of money it takes to be happy. And for the last few decades, it was 75,000. Once you go above 75,000, life doesn't really change. You have housing, transportation, healthcare, enough for entertainment. It's probably closer to 90 now, maybe 110 with inflation, right? But here's the metric that's always messed up. That's earned income. And working for money is the dumbest way to make it. It's taxed the highest. It's constrained by your time, your level of input, versus how much money do you need coming in passively that you don't have to sell your life for 1 hour at a time. And for me, there's two numbers here. One number is consistent. The other one's on a sliding scale. So the consistent number is we have a freedom number. So if you're familiar with financial independence at all, you know that there's an amount of money that you spend every month. That's what you need to replace. Retiring isn't a number, an amount of money. It's money coming in every month. That's more than what it costs you to live. Most of us have that data. We can look at the last 6 months. We can look at our expenses, credit card bills, bank statements, any money that's going out. We could say, okay, that's pretty much what it costs to live my current life. Now, some things will change when you retire. You don't commute. You don't have to eat out as much. You don't have the expense of ongoing training for work or whatever it is. The only thing that actually goes up is probably healthcare. You're no longer paying high taxes. You're no longer saving for retirement, but healthcare is going to cost a little more. So you can figure out what your freedom number is, but that's not when you retire. An example, Christian, you said, you spend less than 7,000, but you wouldn't retire if you were making 7,000. I spend around 4,000 a month. I passed 4,000, wouldn't retire. So that's the first number, is what's your freedom number? This is when work becomes optional and you might be able to take a different job without having to worry about how much you're making. The actual retire number for me is a multiplier of your freedom number. The smaller your freedom number is, the bigger the multiplier. So if you only need $1,000 a month to live, I wouldn't want to retire until you were making 6,000 or 7,000 a month. I needed 4, so I went with a 4-time multiplier. When my cash flow passed 16,000 a month, I felt stupid going to work. That's when I retired. Okay, I hit my freedom number, and I've now passed my retirement number, which was 4 times my freedom number. So for most people, it's figuring out what it costs you to live, and then what is your multiplier. Now, the bigger the number, if you're a Zuber, I'm at the lumberjack landlord, where 20,000 a month is comfortable living, I'd double it. I wouldn't even think about retiring until I hit a 2-time multiplier. 40,000 a month, that's a big enough cushion for me in that mean. So the more money you need to retire, the smaller the multiplier. That's how I look at it.
There we go. I'm curious, Michael Zuber, same question. How do you feel? Where does lifestyle change? And I think it might not just be just a multiple, but was there a dollar amount or a point in time where you're like, life actually looks notably different for me when I hit this period in investing?
Yeah, I think there was a couple of steps along the journey. And first and foremost, I need to admit that I must be doing something wrong, because Dion can live on $4,000 a month, and $4,000 a month is my freaking food budget. So
yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, how? That's my food budget, and I have no kids. It's just my wife and I. I'm like, how?
Yeah. I'm doing something wrong. So first off, Dion's answer is right. So there's no reason to kind of highlight that. If you can live on $1,000, 6 or 7x. If it's 20 grand, 2. So I agree with all of that. But when you're on this journey, I really got this from Coach Carson. Coach talks about there's different kind of plateaus or steps on the journey to ultimately becomes financial freedom. And the first step for me was when we could pay our mortgage from cash flow. That was interesting. The second step along the journey was when we were buying fixer-uppers and we didn't have to transfer cash from our personal account to our business accounts. That was a big wake-up call. It's like, oh my God, the cash flow is that strong that we could take on a $20,000 or $25,000 or $30,000 remodel and still pay all the mortgages. That was cool. That was a cool day. Retiring my wife, Olivia, first. Again, we're very conservative, so we took her paycheck, put it in a separate account that we ignored, and made sure that we could live off what we had already for a year, which we did, and then she retired. And then finally for me was walking to that office, that conference room, February 2nd, 2018, getting dealt a hand that I didn't like, in 10, 15 seconds decided, well, I guess today's the day, and you're out of there. So There are lots of moments. I think it really starts. You really start to see it when you could take a bill and pay for it with cash flow. And for us, that first really one was a mortgage.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you guys did it. You guys all did it way smarter than me. I bought a duplex and I was like, screw it, I hate working. I'm retiring and going full-time real estate. I have no income. I was like, this is definitely going to work. That was probably not the goer. It worked, but that's success does not guarantee future success. That was probably not the most stable way to do it. I like the Dion method better. For sure. If you're looking at leaving your 9 to 5 and you can stand it, I literally COVID hit. I was like, I'm an outside sales rep. I'm not selling from inside. This is stupid. I'm an investor now. I got a duplex. I'll survive. That is probably not the way to play the game. But I have noticed in my life, as I've been able to cover different bills, the big one for me, like Mike retiring Olivia, retiring my wife from teaching. That was life-alteringly different. When I could cover her salary and she left teaching, she just started working in all of my companies. So she works the same hours, but I get to see her like 16 hours a day. And if you're someone who likes their spouse, which I recognize is not everyone, I've not done a lot of things right. I married fantastically, ridiculously up. For those of you who have met Danny, she's amazing. That was life-altering. I am building a house in Texas. Theoretically, that should be life-altering. It's 4 times the size of my house and cost about the same because Texas. But, oh my goodness. There's not once you get stable and you have some amount of freedom to spend and live as you want, the happiness number doesn't really change that much. Living a different life for me will be living in a larger house in Texas, which is also less than half the size of Lumberjack Landlord's house. He just told me his square footage. I was like, oh, good. My house can fit on the lower level of your house. That's good to know. It's only 8 times the size of my existing house. That guy's a freak. But as you play the game and you hit different levels, I think happiness, Dion, you probably hit it about right. I mean, happiness probably caps into low 6 figures. But the adventure continues. And I think the actual just continuing being able to do new things is fun and exciting. So for those who want to travel more or who wants to build the dream house, those options of what you can do open up, which is really awesome. I'm going to jump to another question, but before I do, a gift for everyone here, because we really appreciate everyone joining the live. One person's going to win the VIP ticket. And again, that'll be announced on my channel live tomorrow, as well as on my Instagram. So Multifamily Strategy and at Christian Osgood on Instagram. I will announce both those places the winner. However, everyone on this discount code is live10 until end of day Monday. That code's active for just 2 days. If you joined this live or you watched it right after it went live, you can get 10% off on the event. I am not a fan of discounts, but I do want to reward everyone for being here. So I appreciate you. Live 10. I'll post it in the chat again. That is a discount code available for everyone. And if you buy it today and then I pick you as the one winner, I will reimburse you. I think that sounds, I think that's fair. That is posted there. Everyone's biggest stupid tax. I love this question. This is something that I talk about on my channel all the time, the stupid tax. When you start, there's stuff you don't know. That's why I don't think everyone should start with a 100-unit building, because your stupid tax is going to be 100 times as large. When you're learning the game, you didn't know what you didn't know. Highest stupid tax you ever paid. Millennial Mike. I'm curious what yours was in your out-of-state investing career. It could be monetary. It could be emotional stupid tax. But what did you pay and what was the lesson?
Well, I mean, Dion knows what my biggest stupid tax was. That's not real estate related, but it certainly impacted my finances, certainly impacted my well-being, certainly impacted the trajectory of my life. And this actually might be a good topic to cover because a lot of people ask how to get their partner or their significant other on board. And we have 2 people in this conversation, both Zuber and Christian, who have wives that are involved, who are unbelievably supportive, who made all the difference in their journey. And then there's 2 people like Dion and I, who are both police officer / retired police officer who did not do so good in that department. And if I truly assess my life, what is the worst mistake I ever made? It was not picking somebody supportive, not picking somebody who had the same goals as me, ignoring a lot of red flags because I was young and dumb. And that has slowed me down significantly, cost me probably millions. I mean, just in attorney's fees to go through custody battles alone, that was, $80,000 in time. And I was spending that money on custody battles and divorce fees in 2016, 17, when I could have been buying premium real estate that now would be worth double, triple, quadruple what it was. And I knew about real estate at the time, and I wanted to invest in real estate at the time, except I was slowed down because I had to take care of those personal things. So not a real estate answer, but certainly real estate related because of how it affected me. You got to pick the right person or do what I'm doing now, which is kind of just resolved to get myself to the end of the journey by myself and then turn around and see if I can find somebody, because asking someone to make those sacrifices with you is very tough. And again, both of you, Christian and Zuber, have wives that are just straight W's. They were for the journey. But a lot of times we get this question a lot. How do I get my partner convinced to do house hacking with me? They don't want to downgrade to a duplex. They want to live in their own. I mean, there's so many struggles that you have by not having the right person. So that would be my stupid tax. I picked the wrong one. And that's why I'll only marry Dion from now on. For the tax benefits, of course.
That'll be quite the wedding. The turnout for that will be pretty much everyone in this YouTube chat, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Weird. Zuber, what did you do in your marriage that has made it successful as a partnership for you? And in relation to your portfolio and building, how have you and your wife done that successfully together?
We communicate on everything, right? We communicate from day one, the wins, the losses. We hear each other out. We had a date night every Friday as we were building this, because again, the thing that we did right is we divided roles and responsibilities. She ran the portfolio, which meant, doing approvals and bids and accounting and, all of that. And I was finding deals and securing capital. So we had to connect every Friday. And for us, that meant a sushi dinner. That was our kind of spoils for the week, that we would go do that together. And it was great every week. I think we probably did 48 out of 52 weeks. We had that conversation because, again, I was traveling all over the world. So it was a way that we could connect. It's communication. Same answer for folks getting started. I get this question all the time. Again, I was lucky that Olivia was on board day one. I get it. But you got to remember, a lot of folks today that are hesitant, they have some really deep wounds. What do I mean by that? The 2008 to 2012 crash scarred a lot of people. A lot of people, even if they weren't hurt personally, their family members were hurt. There's some scar tissue there. And if you're the spouse or the significant other that wants to go for it, you need to sit down and listen, right? Because if you don't understand the wound and you just try to run through it, it's not going to be fun for anyone. So communicate.
I agree with that. And I had the same bonus, and it is very fortunate. I remember when I was talking to my wife about, should we buy this 38 Plex with this, at this time, 21-year-old? Cody's like, dude, we need to buy this. There's a homeless camp on the back. I'm pretty sure there's a problem with the electric, and the septic is definitely shot. We should buy this deal. I'm like, that seems like a big jump from I have 2 duplexes to let's take on a massive value add project that people have run away from for 12 years, on market for 12 years. And I talked to my wife about it. I'm like, I like the numbers, and I think we need 2 young guys who are stupid enough to want to do this hard project, and there will be $1 million made here. I really think that this makes sense to me. And my wife's like, okay, well, we prayed about it together, and I like it. I feel good. Let's just do it, because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? We'll go bankrupt and we lose the house. She's like, all that means is we start over. We just have a little house. I'm willing to do that. I'd rather expand. And not everyone's spouse is like that. And if you have kids, I assume that plays massively into the factor of how that feels. But when we started, it was I think it was a 2 or 3 hour conversation of, I'm like, I think I want to do this. But I was like, I'm all in. Let's do it. I think she had less stress than I did going into that. That is not every woman or husband if you're a woman getting into this game. So, I agree. Communication, absolutely everything. Spending all day with my wife working in the company. She does the maintenance contractor coordination, and she helps me run some of the teams because I started too many companies too fast. She makes everything possible. If you can find that partner, invest everything into that relationship. By the way, we have Jennifer in the chat. Jennifer is one of she's been running Northwest Action Summit forever. Her and her now husband, Kurt, run this event. I have the privilege of co-hosting this year, but these guys are the OG Northwest Action Summit. This event is the best event that I've been at. Like last year, I went to this. I was like, this was amazing. So when they invited me to co-host, it meant a lot. She brings up a good point, though. We are a week and a half away. Like, if you are going, this is May 3rd through 4th. If you want to go, discount code's live10. Seriously, buy your ticket today. I will reimburse you if you're the winner, but like, buy it while you're on this live. I want to see people there. There's still some spaces left. Networking is fantastic. Jennifer worked on the catering, so I know the catering's ridiculous. If you like food, this is the place to network. And then we're just have a really diverse group of speakers, different strategies, different ways to buy real estate. We want to see you guys all there. Running through here, grabbing a couple more questions, then we'll go ahead and call it a live. We'll go to, I feel like we have a little bit more runway. Everyone have a few more minutes. This is going to be like a 45-minute thing, but I'm getting thumbs up. So let's carry on while I find it. I agree with Ruben. 50, 40, 10 sounds amazing. I'm going to find one of those. Within the next 12 months, I'm going to do one of these. This is a fun thing. I have a good deal of bank debt. I just did my first commercial bank acquisition recently. But 50, 40, 10, it makes sense to me. You have enough skin in the game to sell everyone on. It's like, hey, I am invested. The bank's going to love that because they're only putting 50% down. The banking first, they're going to have, as long as like a local regional bank, I'm imagining. I imagine banks like the sound of that a lot. As long as the seller's on board, it's a good strategy that I've never thought of. Dion, by the way, I'm curious for you. What was your stupid tax? While I sort through the questions here,
Sure.
I'm curious.
Well, it definitely wasn't my marriages. I'm not on the same with Millennial Mike on the marriages being my stupid tax. I think a lot of people talk about, I wish I can go back to when I was a kid or a teenager or 20 and tell myself these 3 words to change my life. And it definitely would have been avoid any of those because remember, a successful marriage ends in death. So I'm kind of glad I never had a successful one of those. And they kind of motivated me to want to reach financial freedom. So I think they're one of the reasons why I did it. My stupid tax was my first year of being a landlord. I thought I would replace my income because I hadn't even realized freedom number, multiplier, any of that. I just thought, okay, I make this much. I need to make this much off of rentals. And I'm going to do it without any education whatsoever. Right? It takes years to get a degree. It took 13 weeks to go through boot camp to become a Marine, 6 months to go through a police academy to become a police officer. And I'm just going to replace my income by owning a rental. So that first year, I thought, I can't trust a stranger, so I better rent to a friend. I'm renting to a friend. I'm not going to have a lease with a friend. That's stupid. I don't even know if we did a handshake. We just said, hey, you move in, the rent will be this much. And then he never paid it. Then he moved out and rented it to someone else and collected the rent and never paid me that either. My stupid tax was that first year. It was so bad. The stupid tax was so bad, I tried to quit. I thought, yep, I don't have the skill set. I can't be a landlord. I can't own properties. I don't want tenants. I'm out here. Anybody who even has a mortgage on their own house is stupid. And because of the housing crash of 2008, my house was underwater. Luckily, I couldn't give it away. I was stuck with it. I couldn't even subject to, because people could buy houses for 80% of what I needed to cover for the mortgage on mine. And I couldn't find someone dumber than me. Then I educated myself and I took care of the stupid tax. But that first year was my biggest stupid tax. I mean, I lost money on a rental for a year straight before I started reaching out and looking for things like one rental at a time, or Bigger Pockets, or Multifamily Strategy, or Millennial Mike, or anybody who's doing this, because I'm not the first person to own a rental. Like somebody's done it. Somebody's sharing the information. Why didn't I go out there and try to find this? And so that's the goal now, is everybody in the comments shouldn't have to pay all of our stupid taxes. Some of them will make the marriage mistake, but not everybody has to make all of the rental mistakes.
We got a question specifically for Mike, and both of you guys have invested. Both of our mics have invested while doing a full-time job, so we'll ask both mics just to be safe. But starting with Millennial, how do you manage investing with a full-time job? We all have the same time, but you're doing more. I had this question for Matt Hawkins on the podcast recently too. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, I was super involved in my church, and I worked 50 hours a week, and I built this huge portfolio, and I also did my own property management." I'm like, how? Like that doesn't even register for me. You have a very intense job with unusual hours, and you're on call, and you're investing. How do you find time to do that? What does the schedule look like for you?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, and I mentioned and alluded to it earlier, so I'm a full-time single father. I have full custody of my son 100% of the time. I'm a police officer, a SWAT officer, which used to mean that I worked during the day but could be called out at night. Recently, I got promoted to sergeant, and that means I got put back on night shift. So now I just work all night long. I know it sucks, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. It's brutal. I run a YouTube channel, not nearly as illustrious or successful as you gentlemen's, but I spend quite a bit of time uploading videos. And that, believe it or not, really does take a lot of time. I do all my own editing. I run my real estate portfolio. I buy real estate. I'm managing the remodels. I started an Airbnb next door in my duplex, and that took time. I was doing all the cleaning for that. Yeah, there's a lot of time that gets sucked up by everything that I have to do that is not leisurely relaxation. But how bad do you want it? How badly do you want it? Guess how much time I spend playing video games? Not much. How much time do I spend on Netflix? Very close to zero. How much time do I spend just lounging about doing nothing? Very close to zero. I'm very efficient with what I do. Most of my daily tasks are related to work or moving towards my goals in some way. Even things like going to the gym and working out and playing soccer, which I keep myself in good physical condition. When I double up on tasks. I got to spend time with my kid. He comes to the gym with me. He comes to the pool with me. He comes to the soccer field with me. That's one of the ways that we spend time together. Spending time with my kid is the only, and I hate to say it like this, is the only non-work related goal really that I spend a lot of time on. I spend time with him, just whatever he wants. We go to the park to enjoy time together. But we all have the same 24 hours. People have heard this before. What do you do with those 24 hours? And I think if people really honestly took a look at their schedules, not necessarily the people here other than Dion, but he's the lazy investor. But if people really honestly took a look at their schedules and said, am I actually working as hard as I can? If you go and look yourself in the eyes, in the mirror, and say, am I really putting forth as much effort as I could be? If I really wanted these goals that I claim that I want, that I'll post on social media that I want, the cash flow, the rentals, the assets, the lifestyle that I want, am I really doing everything that I can right now to make that happen? Or am I making excuses sometimes, or going slower than I could be, or getting distracted by other things out there? And if you really want it as badly as I do, you would sacrifice almost anything to make it happen. And that's what I do.
Oh, I love that. And I feel the same way. It's like you only have so many hours in the day. Go do stuff. For those who watch a bunch of Netflix or play video, I don't know if Netflix tracks your hours. I know most video games you can literally like log in and see how many hours you play. I think people would be shocked. It's like, oh my gosh, if I spent 1,000 hours trying to find a deal, you would absolutely find a deal. I personally look for deals 2 hours a week. That's the amount of time I spend. I don't look a lot. I meet with one owner every single week, and I make sure that I do that. At least one owner of real estate in the markets that I want to invest in. I meet with one person every single week, and that is enough to build a portfolio. If you took 1,000 hours out of your day, or gosh, Netflix, I mean, most of you probably have 5,000-10,000 hours logged into that, if not astronomically more. You would hit all of your goals if they mattered enough to you. Mike, I absolutely love that. Zuber, same question to you. Full-time job, because you worked that for quite some time in the tech field, if I recall correctly. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what your schedule looked like. And again, I mean, you have a sizable portfolio today. How did you do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, it all starts with realizing you have to give up control. So we invest in a market that's 2.5 hours away, some place we never lived. So we had property managers since day one. Since we bought North Drive, we had property managers. And, unfortunately, that's hard, right? Property managers job's hard. I fired my first 5 property managers. That wasn't any fun. Ultimately finding the right one, ultimately getting to a point of size where you're not just a number on the board, where you're a significant percentage of their business, certainly was helpful. But basically what we focused on was communications. We set up, various rules of engagement, approval limits, things of that nature. We had a Friday call. I should say Olivia had a Friday call. I think it was 10 a.m. every Friday for 15 minutes just to check in. We just wanted to make sure the communications were open, with real estate, really with anything in life. Bad news doesn't get better with age. So you want to attack it head on. Every time we ran into a bump, we learned the lesson, and we changed a procedure or process. But ultimately now doing it for 20 some odd years with the portfolio we have, we probably, I don't know, 4 hours a month, maybe 4 hours a month, but that's because we've been doing it a while and everything is in place. We get a daily, one thing we do now is we get a daily report. This is what we implemented during COVID. We get a daily report around rent collection and expenses. So we're watching it a lot more even now, but the time commitments today is 4 hours, but because it's everything we did during the journey.
Yeah. And that's one of the great things about passivity. When you start in real estate, it is the least passive thing ever. I mean, it is ridiculous how much work it is. Mm-hmm. Even Dion, who is much more efficient with his portfolio, and that's really what it is. Dion just went for high cash flow, doing a deal, maybe 2 a year. But consistency, when you're putting these things together, it is a ton of figuring stuff out and a ton of work, and stuff will happen that you had no idea could happen. You will make mistakes. But there is a point where you add systems and you add people, and over time, cash flow continues to go up. You can buy for great cash flow, but time will also increase that. You get to a point where you can afford passivity. But none of us get to start there. Unless I'll take that back. If you inherited a ton of money, I suppose you would probably buy passivity. If you are like the rest of us who are figuring it out and building our own business, it takes some time, but you actually do get to add efficiencies or add employees or add people into your universe, where it goes from I'm doing this all the time to I'm not involved in this piece of my business anymore. There's a bunch of pieces of real estate now, which fortunately for me, I don't have to do, which means I can go full time at something else. And then when I get really good there, you add systems. So it goes from this is my entire life to this is halftime to it's a few hours a week to it's a few hours a month that I'm really dialing in and looking at these things. Passive income is apparently possible. I've not been playing the game long enough for that, but I see so many people who've added these systems where they're like, yeah, we got real passivity, and there is a point where you do get to retire a pretty extraordinary income. From Financial Firefighter, what's the Zuber letter I'm hearing so much about, and what can I expect from signing up for the Zuber letter?
So the Zuber letter, just go to zuberletter.com. You can go there today. You will see the first edition that we released. It's actually a partnership between myself, One Rental at a Time, and Resi Club, aka Lance Lambert, a former editor of Fortune in real estate. It's a really cool combination. He's very data oriented, all of that. I'm very kind of been there, done that. So he's been on my channel for well over a year. We've had many private conversations. He was actually at our event in Vegas, so he's definitely in the family. And he let me know in Vegas that he wants to help me. Thank you for that. He wants to help me take my content and do what he does well. He's an author, right? He writes. And we actually it took 3 weeks to make it work because, I'm involved in the process and I write and spell terribly. If anybody's ever gotten an email from me, I apologize. Shoot, even my texts are probably misspelled. But yeah, I'm really proud of it. It's just another way to communicate. We're going to take one theme, right? So I do 30 videos a week. We're going to take one theme, one string, and we're going to go deep. And I'm very, very proud of it. We almost have 6,000, I don't know, they called subscribers or whatever. I'm not sure what they're called, but almost 6,000 are signed up in less than 3 weeks.
Wow.
So it's telling me that we're on to something. So again, it's free. I'm not going to ever charge for it. It's just another way I can go deeper on a topic that I'm interested in. So I'm very proud of it. Again, 6,000 folks in 3 weeks. I thank each and every one of you for doing that. But let's get some more. Go to zuberletter.com.
Zuberletter.com. Dude, that's awesome. And I appreciate, that's one thing I actually love about this entire group. The amount of stuff that everyone here just does for free. Most of us go live consistently. If you're Michael Zuber, 30 videos is insane, by the way. I mean, that is the output that this guy has had. If you look at it, how many videos does your channel have today?
I would guess 14,000, I would guess.
And you know what? You can pick any individual one of them, and they're good, and they all have value. The updates, the economic insights, like, it's not just like, oh, he's just launching a ton of content. Like, you plan these out, you think through them. That's an amazing amount of output. For anyone who's wondering, 14,000 is a ton of videos. I believe I have 1/10 of that. The amount of time I spent on that was insane. That is wild. Dion, how often do you post content?
Generally 3 times a week. I do a 2-hour live stream on Tuesdays, and I do a members only or a course video after that. And then Thursdays and weekends, I'll do like a 10 or 15 minute live stream.
And Millennial Mike, how often do you post? You do your own edits too.
I edit my own long form videos, and I try to upload 1 video a week. That's it. I have shorts that go up all the time, but my long form stuff, I just try for 1 a week.
Let's not forget that Millennial Mike does something for my channel that goes unnoticed. He goes through all the comments, and he and I try to do 1 video a week where he brings all the spicy, the heated, the more in-depth questions. So he's playing it low key. He does a lot for his channel and mine. So kudos for that.
It's true.
Oh, we appreciate all of it. And there'll be much more live at the event. So we'll wrap with this. Again, if you just logged in, there's a discount code, live10. And you can go to, I'll actually present it here. Let's see here. Screen share, and talking and clicking is not my specialty. So there we go. Northwest Action Summit. This is the event that we're talking about. Michael Zuber is our headliner, but all of us will be there, either speaking on panels, having our own presentation. This is something that I have the privilege of co-hosting, but we are talking about all things real estate over 2 days. Huge emphasis on how to find the deal, how to fund the deal, either creatively or conventionally. We would love to see everyone there. If you watched this live, either today or anytime through Monday, the code is in the comments. It's also live10, one word, live10. You get a 10% discount if you buy it. Now, if you're waiting to win, anyone who posted a comment here, and I'll keep this rolling for another minute so everyone can post. If you posted a comment, we will randomly select one winner at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. I will go live on my channel and on my Instagram at Christian Osgood, and I will announce the winner. We'll pick a winner and a backup in case the person doesn't respond within 24 hours. But look for that tomorrow. If you buy your ticket and you win, we will absolutely reimburse you that ticket because you win a VIP ticket that will be valued at it's around $800. Book your tickets here at northwestactionsummit.com. This thing, we're like a week and a half away. I think we're just under 2 weeks. So if you're coming to this, like, book your flights, get out here. We will see you in Vancouver, Washington on the 3rd and 4th. Group, thank you everyone for spending an hour with me Sunday morning. For those who don't know, the one thing that I like about financial freedom, I get to choose my wake up time. However, for you guys, I will wake up at 8. I moved my schedule to 9. I'm like, I'm going to wake up at 9. No meetings ever start before 9:30 unless it's for you all. So I appreciate seeing you all here in the morning. If you want more of this, we'll see you at the event. Follow all of these channels, especially if you follow Zuber. It's going to be more content than you could ever hope to absorb. But you will learn what you need to do to play the game.
There you go.
Everybody
All right,
here in the
everyone, have a
live,
great,
if we're still live, head over to the Lumberjack Landlords Live. I put a link in the chat down below. I'll see you there.
Nice. Later.
Ooh, yeah. Lumberjack is still going. Fantastic investor. If you guys are still on the live train, jump over there. Lumberjack Landlord. We'll talk to you all soon.